coming up now, and we're going to be looking into dating and relationships. Some new rules for dating with confidence and leaving bad habits in 2023. So a lot of people have made resolutions, goals, are looking forward to the new year. We're into the new year now, 2024. And let's get an insight with dating and relationship expert PERSIA LAWSON. Is going to give a bit of insight in terms of how we can sort of leave certain habits behind. PERSIA, welcome to the show. Great to have you on board.
Hi.
So can you give us a bit of an insight, sort of moving forward, PERSIA? What in terms of what does the research say for people generally sort of going forward? What are some ideas and takeaways people could take from wanting to get into a relationship in 2024?
So I think what's important to acknowledge is that this actually comes from a lot of research, what I'm about to share with you. So the dating app Badoo actually created a confidence report where they surveyed lots of different daters. And what was interesting, one statistic firstly that I discovered that I didn't know was that currently there are over 366 million users on dating apps worldwide. So that was interesting to me. But sadly, 1 in 4 of daters, so that's 26% of the people surveyed, are actually at an all-time low right now in terms of dating and feeling when it comes to confidence around dating. And the main issue that they cited was actually social media. Social media kind of making people all believe that everyone's living these great lives and have these perfect relationships, and then they're sort of judging themselves by comparison. And of course, people are just putting their best foot forward. They're not showing the whole picture. So I think it's important just to remember that not everything you see is reality, or certainly not telling the whole story. So another thing that they discovered was, people are still feeling pressures, societal pressures. I think particularly women are feeling that we need to be settled down in a relationship by a certain age. So that's a useful thing to realise, what people are struggling with. And if you are struggling in your dating life, you are absolutely not alone. But there are steps that you can take that can help you feel much better. So one of the tips that I shared in the confidence report is to be your authentic self. So essentially this is to counteract what we're seeing on social media. Don't just present yourself as this perfect, polished person. Be honest about, firstly, what you look like. Use pictures that are from the present day, not 5 years ago. Be honest about what your real interests are. Don't put a picture up of a puppy, you holding a puppy because you think that's what people want to see, unless you actually genuinely love puppies or have a puppy or whatever. Share what your values are, and really important, share what it is that you actually want. Be upfront about this is another point, be upfront about your dating intentions from the outset. And actually the app Badoo has a feature which I really love. You can state whether you are just here to date, whether you're ready for a relationship, or whether you're open to chat. So that alone is going to disqualify people who are not a match, well, hopefully disqualify the majority of people who are not a match for what it is for your own dating goals. Another thing is to be respectful of other people's boundaries. If they say that they are not comfortable with a certain kind of message or whatever it is, honour that, respect that. It's really important that you're cultivating a sense of trust right from the get-go. Reply regularly to people. Be consistent. One of the biggest red flags on that note is people have noted that they struggle with is people being inconsistent with their communication. And then that creates a lot of anxiety, and we don't want to be feeling anxious. We want to be having fun. The whole point of this is it's supposed to add to your life, not take away from it or cause you more problems. Also, make an effort on dates. This is obviously going to demonstrate that you're genuinely interested, that you have respect for the other person. So, don't cancel last minute. Show up, be in a good mood, be present, listen to the other person, put your phone away, make a bit of effort with your outfit so that you're feeling good within yourself. And listen to the other person, ask them questions, be genuinely curious. This is going to all set you up really well to have a much more positive dating experience in 2024.
That's right. It made some interesting sort of points there, Persia. I mean, obviously the 466 million, I didn't realise it was that huge in terms of the online dating community. Do you think, that, just sort of off track a little bit, you think that's something that's sort of going to grow or going to? I know it might be outside the scope of the conversation, but sort of where do you see that going? The sort of online world of dating. I'm guessing it's going to get bigger. To be fair.
Yeah, I would say it's only going to get bigger, because if you think about how much and how rapidly it's grown in the last decade, back in the day it was very stigmatic to do online dating, and now everyone's doing it. It's no big deal. So I think more people are normalizing to it. There's so many positive things when it comes to online dating. There's a lot of choice. There's so many reasons why it makes sense. If what you want is a relationship, why it makes sense in the way that we all do online shopping these days. So I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger, which is why it really will serve you to learn how to use the apps more effectively and to show up in your dating life in healthier ways.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned there sort of like, the way it sort of changed, the stigma around it sort of changed. And what about the technology? Has that sort of changed as well in terms of like, from years gone by? I mean, there seems to be so many different apps now, for dating. But just generally speaking, I mean, I suppose sort of what my guess is what some people might be concerned about is the, you've mentioned before that people can sort of like, put any information on there, like, are there things that people can do to sort of, maybe sort of guard themselves just in case, they sort of, someone does put like, a fake profile on there and other stuff like that?
Yeah, well, this is a huge problem. Catfishing, where people are presenting themselves as someone that they are absolutely not. So they can be using fake pictures, fake information. And actually, one of the things that I really love that Badoo's done to help counteract this is they've introduced a feature called the Deception Detector, which is basically where they're applying AI technology to make their community feel safe, secure, and confident, because it means that when you sign up, you have to go through verification steps to ensure that it's actually you behind the profile. So that helps alleviate a massive source of anxiety, is that you can know that the people that you're interacting with on that app are who they say they are.
Yeah, that's a really, really, sort of great point there, Persia. I think it gives people that extra bit of a layer of sort of, sense of security that, that obviously sort of the person they're speaking to is who they're sort of speaking to as well. But sort of going back to sort of, the some of the tips just before we sort of draw to a close. I know time sort of getting the best of us, but is there sort of anything specific that from your experience, obviously you sort of work in the field, and is there anything that you sort of looked in the research and thought, if our listeners are thinking, okay, if there's a couple of things we want to start with, what do you think would be some of the most important things that you saw in the research? Maybe say 2 or 3 tips they could take away from the off.
Yeah, so I think one of the main things is that people can get into overwhelm around dating apps, because it's essentially like the freedom paradox. There's so much choice available to you that it can become overwhelming. So it's important to be mindful. Take regular breaks. If you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, if you're feeling a bit anxious or whatever, that's a sign just to step back for a little bit of time until you're feeling better, so you're not overwhelming yourself. I think it's also what was interesting is the need to create realistic goals and expectations for yourself and for other people. So that ties into being upfront about what it is that you want. But I also think it's really, clearly important to say when something doesn't feel good. Interesting statistics that also came up from the research is that 47% of daters have been ghosted and really struggle with that. So that's when someone, you're interacting with them, you're dating them, whatever, and then they just disappear without explanation, and it can leave you so anxious and confused of, what did I do wrong? So when someone, if you find that you're being ghosted, you can confront the other person about it. Or for me, that's a sign that this is someone who is not respecting of you or your time or your feelings. So it's almost like a disqualifier. If you see people exhibiting certain traits that don't feel good to you, the first step is to confront them and to just state, this doesn't feel good to me. They're either going to just not reply, and therefore you've got your answer, they've disqualified themselves, or they will hopefully take ownership and apologise and change that behaviour. Or if you're unlucky, they might just be really rude back, which again disqualifies them. You just block, delete, move on. 30% of data said that they'd been gaslit, which is where, say you have an issue or someone does something, someone you're dating does something that doesn't feel good, you confront them about it and then they just go, I don't know what you're talking about, or no, I didn't, or, they basically lie, and they can make you feel like you're crazy and make you really think, sometimes having you question your own sanity or question reality. And then also 28% of data said that they'd experienced love bombing, which was really interesting. So love bombing is when someone comes on super hot and heavy at the start. They might even tell you they love you and shower you with gifts and all of this sort of thing. That is not sustainable. What we tend to see is that people, disappear. It completely burns itself out. So if you notice anyone exhibiting any of those three they're kind of warning signs, then it's important to acknowledge them. Don't just sweep them under the carpet, or worse, turn them on yourself and think that you're the problem. You absolutely are not. So the green flags that you want to be looking for in someone else, but also demonstrating yourself, open and honest communication and transparency, respecting of boundaries, which we've already talked about, having shared values and goals as someone else, so there's that sort of common ground. Getting a sense that they're trustworthy, they're reliable, they reply or call when they say they would, they don't cancel on you last minute. And very importantly, mutual independence and space, like that both of you have got vibrant, exciting lives outside of the dating dynamic. Dating isn't the only thing that you're focused on, that you're doing obsessively. It's one part of your life. If you really follow those things, then you're going to approach dating so much more healthily.
Now, some interesting insights, and I suppose maybe the red flags things can be a show for some time as well. I mean, it's really interesting, really, in terms of sort of you mentioned there, sort of touched on a couple of sort of the green and if you want to call them red flags, I suppose that's another way of putting it. But I suppose it's, in the end, it's you've shared some useful tips for people in terms of sort of going into it, for sure. So I want to thank you for your time. It's been really interesting speaking to you. So, thanks for coming aboard the show. I'm sure the listeners found that really interesting and informative as well. Just if they want to find more information about your work or the research, anywhere they can go to have a look.
Yes, so I would first say go to Badoo, just download the app from the App Store or go onto their website. You can just find that on Google or Instagram. You'll be able to read the full confidence report, which I strongly recommend. There are so many useful insights, and I unpack those tips more in the report as well. And if you're interested in my work, you can go to my website, PERSIALAWSON.com, or I hang out a lot on Instagram, and that's just at PERSIA Lawson.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time, Persia. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too.